guess you lost your sense of humor. No longer think that I'm so clever. Mocking words before they part my lips. A conversation with you can be so damn quick. It all happened in September.
Once again, X2thel is pleased to bring you one of our favorite artists, Abiah. And we've known this brother for quite some time. So there are a lot of things we want to talk to him about his career and about his attitude toward music in general. But the first thing that I want to discuss with you falls under the heading of rebranding. Okay? Now, we've seen a number of artists rebrand themselves for any number of reasons. Okay? Prince comes to mind because he was in a dispute with Warner Brothers and he wanted to recapture his musical compositions and his publishing. Okay? And so everybody's familiar with that, okay? But in your particular case, you've rebranded recently, and so I'd like to ask you a little bit about that.
I think it was important, you know, I took basically a 6-year break from recording, or at least putting out material in the business, and I think when you have that long of a distance between projects, out of sight, out of mind is what comes to mind for me. And I had a couple of things. That was one of the issues that I've been away for so long. The other was from my major record deal, there was another kid who came out in the 6 years named Jeremiah. And that became a very, very big issue for me. It was like people were calling me all the time, wanting him.
Confusing
the two of us.
A new, and he's hip-hop.
He's hip-hop, but I also had my own record out way before him. And it became a thing where we could have gone to court, et cetera, et cetera. But I thought, you know, it has nothing to do with a name, you know, and so I decided to just use my last name as my career name now. It was a way to kind of start again, and I had this new record that I thought was really returning to who I was artistically. Because, you know, in 6 years you experiment, you play around, you try to find new sounds, but I already had a sound, and I just returned to that. So this record was kind of reintroducing that sound again. So it was a great opportunity to do that.
Well, I also, if you don't mind me complimenting you on this, okay, my observation is that it was a very mature move on your part, artistically, to do something like that, because there are any number of people that would have dragged him right into federal court, okay, saying that you're infringing on my trademark, okay, and whether they expected to win or not, they get some publicity mileage out of it. So I appreciate your artistic integrity in not doing that. But let me ask you, okay, how did this impact on your established fan base? Because you were out there for a while longer. You've done things. One thing that I really liked that you've done before your hiatus was a video with Shayne.
Yeah.
And so do you think that it somehow impacted on your established fan base?
I think people are still discovering that it's me. I don't think that a lot of people realize that I put out a new record, and I think it was important to get a video out sooner than later, which we did last week via OK Player and The Revivalist. And then, you know, I think it's just about people spreading the word. You know, I have a fan base via email and all of those things, you know. And, you know, we get the word out. I think people are slowly figuring out it's me. And, you know, once I start touring again, people realize, oh, that's that guy named Jeremiah. You know?
That's the brother who we like.
Yeah, yeah. So.
Well, I'd like to ask you a little something about your artistic development and your early influences. Who were the artists, you know, I'm assuming that they're musical artists, but you might have other influences as well, that influenced you during your formative years in music?
I think for me it's actually been very established artists that kind of were along the journey for me.
Like who?
The first was definitely Anita Baker. She was the first artist I heard as a child and said, man, I want to sound like that. And I was known even as a kid of having this really high voice. So I gravitated towards her music really quickly. I started imitating her, even making the sound and jumbling words. People didn't like understand what I was saying, but I could make a great tone. And so Anita was first. And one thing I loved about Anita is that she was a songwriter and a pianist as well, which most people don't realize that she also plays. And then after that, I was exposed to Oleta Adams. another singing pianist, songwriter, and great voice with a certain specific tone. Then after Olita was Rochelle Farrell. Once again, pianist, singer, an incredible instrument. And she was one of the first people that I decided I need to challenge myself as a singer to become more than what I was. I was studying, at that point, I was about to go into college when I heard Rochelle for the first time. And I was going to school for music. I knew that I had a scholarship for voice, so I knew that I was going to study voice, but I really wanted to challenge myself to stretch my voice in a way that I already had a certain range, but how could I be instrumental as a singer? So Rochelle was a big influence in that way. And then I heard Nina Simone, and I said, man, how can I now make pictures with my voice? How can I make imagery with my voice? So I was thinking about the artistry of singing in another way. And I actually got a chance to see Nina before she died in concert, which was a very big deal for me. And then after her was probably Sarah Vaughan. And Sarah was kind of the icing for me on the cake. She had all the stuff. And also a pianist, a singer, all of these. So I was influenced by women singers. I think, one, because I had a high voice. But two, I feel like women in general don't have limitations on their instrument, where a lot of men have a limitation on their instrument. And I wanted to be that male voice who didn't have the limitation. I could go places that other men couldn't.
Well, it sounds to me also that you gravitated less toward the more poppy type of musicians and more toward the people, and you used the word artistic and you took the words right out of my mouth, people that bring artistry to the table. And that's what I'm getting from it. The fact that they all happen to be women seems to be incidental to the fact of their artistry. What I'd like to ask you, though, is do you have any, outside of the people that influenced you during your formative years, are you influenced by anybody right now, any current artists?
I think most recent years, an artist by the name of Feist has been tremendously inspirational for me. Rachel Yamagata, Ray LaMontagne, and I always love Bjork. I think Bjork is also just genius. So they're probably the artists who I think, I find with artists who are not of color, honestly, they tend to be more free. They have an ability to make music without the confines of the business. Even though they have major record deals, a lot of them can just do whatever they want to do and still maintain their integrity. I think when you're an artist of color in this business, you for some reason have to be limited.
Well, it seems to me that the major companies, to the extent that the majors are still players these days, which is dubious, but they tend to pigeonhole artists of color, and so it's like, oh, he's black, he must be R&B, or he's black, he must be jazz.
No, absolutely. I mean, the record I have out now, Life as a Ballad, we put it in jazz because I felt it was the most appropriate category, but it's not really a jazz record. It's not an R&B record. I just consider it a singer-songwriter record. But initially, when it was put on iTunes, they threw it right in R&B. Immediately, it went to R&B without even hearing the music.
Just looking at the image of the artist.
Black man, and it's like, wow. I mean, are we only this thing?
Well, you get an opportunity to show that you and the people that are like-minded get an opportunity to show that no, it's much more.
Well, of course, and I think the writers have been getting it. I think people who have heard this record, who are reviewing the record, they say it's not a jazz record, but it's not an R&B record. They don't know where to put it. But I think I have my own sound, even almost my own genre in a sense. And that's a great thing. It might be a little harder to kind of make way and make a path sometimes, but I think someone like Nina Simone is a great kind of example of the kind of artistry that I'm looking for to pave the way for the life that I want as an artist.
Well, when you talk about Nina, obviously she was an artist of the highest caliber. And one of the things that's notable about her, for those of us who are old enough to remember her not as someone who's about to be portrayed by Zoe Saldana, right? And we can talk about that.
We can talk about that.
We can talk about that. But she was someone that had a message in her music when she talked about the four women, okay, or when she sang to be young, gifted, and black, and some of the other things that she sang, which it was clear that she was directing some of this, you know, maybe a lot of it, to her own people, not to exclude anybody else, but she was recognizing, you know, a need in her community. So that kind of leads me to a question. How do you feel as an artist? Do you feel as though you have to express, how do you feel about expressing political views in your art? Is that something that you want to do? Is that something that you are not particularly, you know, interested in doing?
Well, it's something I write about all the time, actually. I wrote a song for Obama's last campaign. I would do it in concert. It just hasn't been, you know, recorded. My very first live record that I put out when I first moved to New York had a song called Pray, and it was exactly about political situations. So I am that kind of artist. I think it's just about a matter of timing and when you put it out. You know, I have a song I wrote for Trayvon Martin. You know, so there's all kinds of things that, you know, I think if you're really a conscious artist and not someone who's just chasing fame, but you're conscious, then you these things kind of naturally come to you because my voice is in the music.
But do you think that your consciousness stands in the way of popular success? Because you can look at some people who don't demonstrate, I don't know them personally, so they may be very conscious people, but you certainly couldn't tell from their music. They're just putting stuff out because it could get the greatest return of money.
Well, I don't think for me success has to do with that kind of thing, that kind of messaging. I think success for me just has to do with time and longevity and being consistent. And one thing I vowed to myself is to never take the kind of break that I took so that I can continue to build upon what it is that I'm doing. So I think it's a matter of time versus the message that I have to put out.
But do you think your break made you stronger?
It definitely made me stronger because I had to learn to trust myself again and trust what it is that I have. And now I can walk into any room with anybody at any meeting and tell you who I am without a shadow of a doubt and tell you what I need you to do for me.
Well, the break that you took wasn't just simply a break, because I know for a fact that you were working with younger artists, helping them to develop.
Absolutely. One thing that I was doing even before I had my major deal is I was coaching singers. I was being asked by people every time I would do a concert, someone would run up to me and say, "Do you teach?" And I thought, you know, hey, you know, now that I got the deal and I'm away from the business, I have more information to share that goes beyond the technical of the voice, which I'm a student of. But I wanted to share the experience of the business and how can I help people to develop. So I created my own artist development program called Inside the Singer's Voice. And it has become, you know, I've been called upon by people like L.A. Reid and all kinds of folks sending me artists and saying, help me with this person develop their voice. And what I do with the artists is I help them recognize that they have to think beyond this moment, because a record deal really means nothing now. But how can you live as an artist? How can you live as a singer? Do you want to be a singer or are you chasing fame? Because those are two different ball games. But if you want to live as an artist, then I have the tools to help you build something that will take you beyond this moment.
So that you can have some longevity in the profession.
In the profession.
I'd like to also ask you a little something else about the creative process. Now, I know that you're a songwriter, you're a singer-songwriter, okay, and obviously you're a pianist, okay, of no small amount of skill. How do you, what is your creative process? How do you take a song from just an idea in your head to the final finished product?
I have to really honestly give God credit for that, because when I get a song, it comes to me complete. I literally hear, you know, I've written my next record already. And when it's come to me, I can hear the whole orchestration of the song, the bass and all of those things. Now the production aesthetic is a different thing, because that's where you have to pull yourself away from it and say, how can I now extrapolate certain parts to make it be something even more special. But the song itself, lyrically and ideally, it just all comes at the same time, almost always.
You know, for the people that are going to be watching this, I hope that they appreciate how rare that is, okay? I've written my fair share of music, but I can only say that I've written one song where I heard the whole thing all at once, okay? That doesn't happen, okay? I might hear some chords, or I might hear a rhythm, or I might like have an idea for lyrics, but that's rare. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote the song September, for instance, that's on my new record, in 15 minutes. And it came to me even, you know, there's a lyric in the song, there's some lyrics in the song that says, it'll happen in September, in just 3 months it will be winter. Already feel the chill. And I go from 4/4 timing to 3/4 timing, indicating the 3 months that it will be winter. And all of that those kind of like, for me, nerdy musical things that some people won't even catch.
That's what you would call musical nuance.
Yeah.
Okay, and so a musician is going to listen to that and think, wow, that was slick, okay? And also because you don't hear it that much, because in popular music, you would think that no time signature exists other than 4/4.
Oh, it's true. It's true.
And 3 is, and my own personal observation is 3 or 6 are like really strong, and especially for persons of African descent, okay, because that rhythm gets into your body, and once it does, it's in there and it's unshakable.
That's true.
And that's why if you go to a church, you'll often hear people like, you know, doing 3/4 or 6/4. It's like it's something that comes with us. I want to ask you though, what do you view as the biggest challenges to independent artists who are coming along today? Okay, you've had experience with the majors, and you've seen the good that can come from dealing with them, and the parts that aren't necessarily that wonderful in dealing with them. But what do you think about what's happening these days with the trend toward a lot of artists being more independent and leaving the majors wherever they are?
Well, I think this is the challenge. Everyone can be an independent artist now because of the internet, and there is no siphoning of good from the bad. You know, someone does a thing on YouTube, it becomes a hit, but are they really that talented? That is the issue, because then independent artists who are really gifted have to fight through all of that clutter too, where versus a major, and I'm not a major basher at all, I think it can work if you know what you're doing. But I think when you're an indie artist, those are the things that you have to fight against. And then also money is always a challenge, because, you know, how do you fund this? You know, right now I have a record out, and while I have a distribution deal, I have my own label. So that means I'm putting out the music myself. That means PR, as expensive as that is, I have to take care of all of those things. So those, to me, are the challenges. And you know, I'm not this guy who has a corporate job. I'm a guy who makes money from music. So those can be the challenges, I think, for indie artists. You know, the clutter and finances usually are the biggest challenges.
And what about the existence, or perhaps the non-existence, of radio?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely, but who's to say as an indie artist you would get airplay anyway, regardless if there were a lot of radio or not?
Well, let's face it, okay, in the days of the majors, when the majors dominated, it's no big secret that if they paid the on-air personality, then the record got played. And the more they paid them, the more often you heard it,
Sure.
okay? And that's how hits were made.
Sure.
And people have documented it. They
Sure.
book hitmen and so on and so forth. Yeah, payola, and people went to prison.
Absolutely.
And one of the biggest people in the music industry, I'm not going to name his name, but he died, I guess, maybe about a year ago. And he's the one that escaped prison. Took the money, okay, but he didn't end up going to jail. Well, I want to ask you, we have like a small amount of time left, so there are a couple new things that I want to ask you about. One is your new product, okay, so tell us all about it, the video and the tracks, and tell us everything we need to know.
Okay. So the new record is called Life as a Ballad. It's a 9-song album recorded in one day, featuring a lineup of Robert Glasper from Blue Note Records, who happens to be my cousin, Ulysses Owens Jr. on drums, Keith Whitty on bass, who was my co-producer, Chris Edelton also played on drums, Marvin Sewell, the guitarist who plays with Cassandra Wilson, Let's see who else is on there. I think that's it. And then myself. And I wrote all the songs. I did one cover of Prince's When Doves Cry, but I call it Doves because I reimagined the whole song. It doesn't sound anything like his song anymore. The record was really done so well because we had such a great relationship in the studio. I came in very clear, knew the ideas. Once again, I knew how to produce a record, and when I had someone there to kind of help guide me through that process and be able to pull myself away from it. It was nice to have a co-producer on this record.
Someone else to watch the clock so you didn't have to.
Oh yeah, exactly. But also I think when you go in and you have great musicianship, it's so easy to pull off something so great. You don't have to. I mean, Robert told me he's done his records in 1 or 2 days, all his records, and I thought, well, maybe I can do the same thing. And so I thought, if I sit down with the songs and I said, okay, I want this to happen, and I took really extensive notes and I shared it with the band. I said, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. This happens at this moment. And we rehearsed it just like that. We went in, we didn't even have a rehearsal. We rehearsed the music 3 times and then recorded it.
So you went in with charts and that was
just
it?
Charts and ideas and said, this is what I want, this is what I need from you. And during the rehearsal, I would hear Robert do something and say, do that thing. And then all the songs just kind of came together. So it was really an amazing process. It's given me a lot of fuel for the next record. And it's also budget conscious.
And you know how many singers that are going to watch this interview that are going to be hating on you? Because they went in and spent months, sometimes years,
Dude.
Okay, working with different producers and so on and so forth. Okay, and so basically the way that you did it is the way that the classic historic jazz records were done. Okay, cats come in, okay, here's the charts, people get themselves situated, run it down, and bang, and it's a photograph, it's a musical photograph.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a long day, 16 hours, 14 hours, but I think that's really possible, especially, these kind of cats, they have such difficult schedules. So to coordinate, to get them for 1 or 2, 3 days, it's impossible. And can you really afford them? Not that for me, I'm really blessed that I have these relationships with them where I don't even think it was about money, but it was about time. And so I said, I have these guys, I know they're with me, we can get it done. And we knocked it out. And I'm very grateful to hear the response to the record.
And where did you record?
We recorded this record at Kaleidoscope Studios, which is in New Jersey. And so my first single was called September. And, just classic songwriting. And I shot the video with this guy named Scott Gordon Blythe. And, we kind of talked about it. And when I discovered him, I sent him the song. He wrote me 3 treatments. He loved the song that much, and he was so inspired. And we went ahead and found the location. We shot it at Dead Horse Bay in Brooklyn, which is like way out near the airport. And a disgusting place, really. The beach, disgusting. But it was the right atmosphere for the song.
It must be way out in Brooklyn because I'm a Brooklynite and I
never heard of it, right?
I don't know anything about it. You know anything about it?
No, I never heard of it.
No, I know, man. What about y'all? Okay, so we were like way out there. My last question for you is kind of broad, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think music is going? And how do your future musical plans as an artist fit into the direction that you think music is going in general?
Well, I think that there is a great hunger for content. And I think that's where the business is heading back. How soon it's going to get back there, because you hear this all the time. I'm in label meetings all the time with different artists and da-da-da-da. And, people are saying, oh, I'm looking for great songwriting again and great singers and da-da-da-da. But the change is slow. So I think that is eventually where it's going. For me, I just have to continue to be who I am and find new opportunities to expose people to my music through film, through television. I've been asked to be a part of several reality television shows over the last couple of years as a vocal coach, but it gives me an opportunity to put my face out there a bit more. So I want to just continue to grow artistically. I think turning out more music always helps because you're able to keep people involved with the process of what you're doing. And I think the other thing is the more visual you are, the better off you'll be. And I think that people always want to see you. So I think just kind of continuing to build your online presence is going to be essential as an artist. And I think that's what I'm doing, just naturally, actually. That's just kind of naturally happening. And so I've already, like I said, I've already written my next record. So it's just about next fall recording it and putting it out in the spring of 2014. Just keep it coming, you know?
Well, we're looking forward to it, and we're looking forward to hearing it. And, of course, the product that's out now is available, and we encourage everybody to, to open up your ears and open up your mind and take a listen. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thanks for having me.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And we look forward to chatting with you again in the near future.
Absolutely.
I guess you lost a sense of humor. No longer think that I'm so clever.